Well, buckle up, Buttercup. It's time to rise and shine, travelers. That's right. It's time for the According to Willie B podcast, straight from the highly caffeinated studio. And I, Will Bryce, am your host slash tour guide slash information guru. Now, we won't go that far. But hey, I do have a reason for today's podcast. So last week when listen to me, I can't even speak English. When I did the cruise ship, comparing all the different cruise lines, I had a ton of emails, all because of one simple statement that I made. And do you know what it was? I'm going to tell you. If you just sit tight, I'm going to tell you what it was. I said, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was about halfway through the cruise ship podcast, and I was talking about how great and wonderful cruises are, yada, yada, yada. But then I made the statement of, well, cruises really aren't my thing. I prefer all-inclusive resorts. Let me tell you, I got called out on that. They're like, well, I thought you said cruises were great, and now you're saying you don't like them. What should I believe? Should I go on a cruise or should I go to an all-inclusive resort? Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because today's podcast, I'm going to straighten that information out. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of both the big boat, aka cruise ship, and the all-inclusive resort, which I seem to favor because I have been called out. And that's okay. I do not mind that at all. But I will tell you that I want to wrap this up. So if we have any more questions after this, I will just answer them directly and not do another podcast, because this week I actually leave tomorrow, headed to Philadelphia, and as well as Atlantic City. And then after that, we got Florida, we got New York, we got Boston, we got Niagara Falls. Man, there's so much cool stuff coming up. You definitely want to stay tuned on the upcoming episodes. There's some really cool stuff. I'm really excited about it. And as well for Culinary Highway as well. I've got some off the wall, like you're not going to believe some of the food that I have found. But that's another conversation for another day. Today, we're talking about the pros and cons of resorts versus the big boat, or aka cruise ship. So I thought about it on how I wanted to do this, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to talk at random. So if I go down a rabbit hole, just be prepared. Because I'm famous for going down a rabbit hole. So I will tell you a couple of my pros for both of them. So for a cruise ship, one of the things that I do like about cruise ships is that they have the sail away party. So, because, the thing is this is day one of vacation, and you are on a vacation high. I mean, you are so ready for that boat to hit the open water, and you are ready to leave your cares behind. Hopefully not your luggage, but your cares and your job and everything else, and just to get away for a little bit, right? So the sail away party is like a celebration of getting out of town, right? And so that is so cool to me. I do love the celebration party. And part two of the sail away party of the sail away party is once you get out into the open waters and that murky, deep, dark ocean turns into, crystal clear blue water. And if you've never seen that, you are missing out, because that is something that will stick with you for a lifetime. I kid you not. If you've never experienced, either by plane or by boat, of being seeing the change of the color of the ocean change over to that just crystal sky blue water, there's nothing like it. And once you hit that part of the ocean, you're like, I'm in the tropics. Not quite yet, but hey, I'm close enough that I'm going to have another pina colada, and I'm going to fake it until we get there. So that is I kind of gave you two of my favorite things about a cruise ship. Now I'm going to give you a couple of cons, and then we're going to talk about the resort for a minute. So my number one gripe, my number one complaint, my number one thing that I do not like about a cruise ship is schedule, schedule, schedule. Yes, I know I said it 3 times. But the thing about cruise ships, and on day one, when you get back to your stateroom, which sounds very impersonal to me, but whatever. So you get back to your stateroom on day one, and guess what's on your bed? It is a schedule for the next day. When I go to work, I have a schedule. When I'm at home, I have a schedule. When I do this podcast, I have a schedule. When I do Culinary Highway, I have a schedule. The last thing that I want to do is have a schedule when I'm on vacation. That ranks right up there with eating turkey bacon. It's unpleasant. So that's my number one complaint about cruise ships. If I'm being totally honest, that's my number one complaint. If they got rid of the schedule, maybe I could start leaning back towards it a little bit. So let's talk about resorts. Let's throw a couple out there for resorts and see what you think. So of course, a pro for a resort is no schedule. That's right. I arrive, I get settled, and I do whatever Will's little heart desires. If I want to go get something to eat, I can do that. If I want to sit in a chair by the pool or by the beach, I can do that. Or if I just want to take a nap, why not? I'm on vacation. I can do whatever I want to. There's no schedule. So that's one of the things that I love about an all-inclusive resort is that there's no schedule. And some of you may be okay with the schedule. Maybe you really like the structure part of it. But that's just me. We're just talking about opinion here. So a con for a resort, because even though as much as I love them, yes, an all-inclusive resort does have some cons, and I'm going to point them out, and because they are things that kind of irritate me, but some of them are things that we can't do anything about, right? And the number one thing is travel day. Because when you go get on the boat, well, okay, maybe you fly, or maybe you drive down to, like if you're in Texas and you drive down to Galveston Port or New Orleans or something like that, and you drive down there and get on the boat. You're starting your vacation right then. So, like for me, my favorite destination for all-inclusive is Jamaica. And it's, you're talking a 2-hour and some change flight. Then when you get to the airport in Montego Bay, you have to take they call it a taxi, but it's a little minivan, if you will, a little miniature bus thing. And depending on which end of the island you're going to, you've got a good hour and a half or plus van ride, bus ride, whatever you want to call it, out to the resort. So you're already tired because you've been up more than likely since 5 or 6 o'clock that morning catching the flight, and then getting to the airport in Jamaica, and then having to take the bus for another 2 hours to get to the resort, and then you got check-in when you get to the resort, and by the time you finally kick your shoes off, it's been a day. It's been a very long day, and I'm going to go ahead and skip to the end on this because I'm already on this subject, so we'll go ahead and knock this one out. Day of departure on an all-inclusive resort. I don't care what time your flight leaves. If your flight leaves at 10 a.m., if your flight leaves at 3 p.m., they are going to hustle you out of there first thing in the morning. And yeah, your friends might leave at 9 and you get to stay until 9:30. Wow. So that's kind of all, but it's because you got a 2-hour ride to get back to the airport, and they have to have you there 2 hours early because you've got immigration and customs and all this kind of things. So the day of travel, anytime you book an all-inclusive resort, you basically lose, I consider, 2 days lost, especially the day you come home. That is, you're not doing anything that day. You're not sticking your feet in the water. You're not having that last drink. I mean, your bags are packed. You're going home. The day you get there, you might have a half a day, a third of a day, depending on how early you left in the morning. But the day of travel, going to an all-inclusive resort is not fun. So I call that a con. So let's go back and look at some more cruise stuff. So let's talk about activities. So, on a cruise ship, especially some of these mega cruise ships, good night. I mean, there's not much that they're not putting on some of those mega cruise ships. It is absolutely ridiculous. I remember the first time they put miniature golf on there, and I thought that was crazy. And now it's the slides, the water slides. It's a whole flipping water park on the ship. Go-karts on there. I mean, it's like they said, okay, what can we not put on here? Let's try that. But, you do have around the clock activities. You got Broadway shows, which that's another plus. Something, and some people are 50-50 on this one. So, you have the fancy dinner night, right? Well, being on the ship, you got air conditioning, which, on an all-inclusive resort, you have air conditioning in your room, somewhat, and you have air conditioning in the restaurants. But when you're on a tropical island, to dress up in a three-piece suit or a long formal dress, yeah, you're going to melt like a chocolate bar on the dash of an LTD in 1975. Just painting a picture there for you. So there you go. But you can, I like the fancy dinner night. I like the, when you and your significant other, you get all dressed up to the nines. I mean, everything almost, I've seen people wear a top hat and have a cane. I mean, I'm talking that they're dressing up like they missed the prom and this is their prom, man. And they are going. They have their date on a boat and they can't get away. So they're taking that date to prom, aka the fancy dinner, which is like 8 to 10 courses, right? They put all these little portions on night. I would hate to be the dishwasher on a cruise ship. I'm like, come on, man, put it all on one plate, just bring it out here. But anyway, that's part of the allure of doing those fancy dinners. But, it is fun to dress up and to, of course, they take the pictures and that's your picture that you'll put on the mantle that will sit there for, I remember 20 years ago we went on it. But anyway, I digress. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. So we talk about activities. There are some all-inclusive resorts that do a really good job at doing after hours activities, let's call it nighttime. Now, the all-inclusive resort, because my favorite all-inclusive resort is Couples, has been for years, and it's really the only all-inclusive resort I go to because they are far and beyond everybody else. However, I will say, if you are going to, let's say, there's a couple of them that are better than the others. If you go to Negril, they have a little bit more nighttime activities, kind of like a parody of game shows, stuff like that, and it's adults only, so it's a lot of fun. But like with the cruise ship, I mean, you got Broadway style shows, man. I mean, they're putting no expense spared because, man, they are just going all out. And that's one thing that the resorts really lack. They have you've got the steel drum bands that will come and play. You've got different local talent that does things, and it's cool. It's got a very Caribbean tropical island vibe, right? You're on an island. But on a cruise ship, I mean, you may think you're on Broadway watching a show. And so they do have that going for them. So that is a pro, and you do not have that at any resort that I've ever been to. If there is one out there that you know of, I mean, hey, send me an email. I want to check it out. The other thing I was talking about, like your activities or the schedule on the boat. One of the things that is a pro for me for a resort with no schedule is, and there's going to be a little caveat coming after what I'm about to tell you. So yes, you can plan your own itinerary every single day of your vacation. However, it is becoming increasingly more regulated. And what I mean by that is the resorts have to keep tabs on you when you leave the resort. They are responsible for you. And so by doing that, they are starting to be a little more stringent with their schedule on letting you go shopping or letting you go to the catamaran cruise. And I'm fixing to give you a little backstory on that. About when I say that the resort keeps tabs on you. So not very long ago, 2 years ago, we were in Jamaica at Couples in Tower Isle, and we always have a reunion trip down there with some friends that we met on the resort. So we wanted to do the catamaran cruise. We caught a break in the weather, and we said, all right, this is the day we're going to go do this. So a bus pulls up, a big, nice coach bus, and loads us all on there, and away we go. We had to go down about a 15-minute ride, if I remember correctly, to a marina, and they dropped us off, and then we have to follow the guide that's on the bus. You follow that guide down to the actual boat. Like I said, they're keeping very strict of where you are at all times. They put you on the boat, and then they know what time the boat is returning, the catamaran. So the bus is supposed to be back up there waiting for you as well as your tour guide is supposed to meet you when the boat comes back to the dock. When we returned, there was no tour guide. So we just walked on back up front where we had gotten off the bus. There was no bus. Now, at first there was no calls for alarm. Okay, so the bus is running late, right? I mean, that's what buses do, I'm guessing. So there's about, I think about a dozen of us, maybe 15 of us, whatever. And we're standing, and it's late in the evening. And to say that we felt a little uneasy was an understatement. We were being watched, we were being stared at, we were being circled by some unsavory characters on bicycles. It was starting to make us. So we called the resort, and we said, hey, the bus is running about 15 minutes late, and we're kind of not feeling exactly safe here. When we called the resort and they found that out, they kept us on the phone until that bus driver got there. He had some kind of issue, and so the bus was late getting there. But I'm telling you this because that's why these resorts keep you under tab. And it's a good thing because it helps keep you safe. I will tell you a con of a cruise ship is if you book outside, and it's actually the same thing on a resort, all-inclusive resort. If you book outside some excursion outside of their program, you are on your own, literally. If you book through the resort or through the cruise ship, they will make sure that you are back on that resort or you are back on that boat. The worst thing you want is to miss that big boat leaving the dock because they will not wait. They will leave you standing on the dock. If you don't believe me, go on YouTube and watch some videos. A lot of people laugh like, oh man, look at this guy running down. It might be funny now, but I promise you it was not funny to that person at that time. So, there's that. And there's besides the Broadway shows on the cruise ship, you'll have a casino. Your your staff on the boat that your cleaning staff on a boat that cleans your room. They make those cool little towel animals. And, I've tried to make one of those before, and no. I've learned that I can fold a towel in the shape of a strip of bacon. I can do that. It's very impressive. I'll have to do one and take a picture of it and post it somewhere. But I digress. But on the all-inclusive resort, the ones that I've been to anyway, do not do the towel animals. And that's kind of sad. But, so that's the thing. So I will say on an all-inclusive resort, here's another pro for you. There are usually multiple swimming pools. So you've got plenty of water to splash around in if you don't want to get in the ocean. Because, there's critters out there. They sting, they bite, they swallow you whole. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have whales out there somewhere, I know. And with the weight I've gained, I'm sure I look like a nice chicken nugget to some big fish out there. So I'm just not taking that chance. And I haven't seen any kind of critters like that in the pool. So I'm staying in the pool. Oh, and they have a pool bar. So you can sit on a stool in the water under a roof and have your pina colada or whatever your choice is. But, and here's another thing. When you're in your room, let's say you want to go down to the beach or you want to go get something to eat, you're literally not very far. It's not a very far walk at all. On a cruise ship, however, I don't know how people gain weight on a cruise ship with as much walking as you have to do. And everybody says, well, no, you have to get on a certain deck and you want to get in the middle of the ship. I'm like, either way, whatever I'm deciding to go to, it's always on the other end of the boat. It's always 14 floors up or 14 floors down. Always. So, but I digress on that. And it's not that I'm lazy. It's a lot of walking, especially after I've eaten. But, I digress. But so, there's that. There's a lot more stuff to do on a ship. So, I say all this, folks, that, because both of them have their pros and cons. The cruise ship has pros that, you just have to find that sweet spot of what you're looking for. And like for us, the number one caveat is that no schedule. Number two is that there's less people. So you don't have all the lines to wait on. On a cruise ship, in my opinion, you have to stand in line just to change your mind. And, I'm on vacation. I want to stick to my schedule, which is doing absolutely nothing. And that doesn't mean standing in line. But if you've ever tried to get off or on a cruise ship when you hit the port, you know what I'm talking about. It's an ordeal to get off and on the boat. More off than on, really. But, like I said, it can be a daunting task either way. I will say there's more food choices on a cruise ship than the resorts. While I will say Couples in Ocho Rios has, I believe, if off the top of my head, I believe they have 5 different restaurants. But let me tell you, once you've been there for 8 to 10 days, the food's starting to get boring. But it kind of does on a cruise ship as well. But a cruise ship does have more choices, and so you have a little less chance of getting bored with the food as you do on an all-inclusive resort. I will say, if you like to drink, if you like your pina coladas and your Mai Tais and your Blue Breeze and your banana smoothie with rum and whatever, on a cruise ship, the last that I've seen, the last I paid for a drink package is about $1,200, and I know the emails that are about to ensue when I make this next statement. I can see some of you right now with your fingers on the keyboard because you're like, he's about to say something stupid. No, I'm not going to say. Well, I can't say that I'm not going to say something stupid, but I'm sorry. I can't guarantee that. In this show, there are no guarantees other than I do show up on time every week. But so the drink package, like for an all-inclusive resort, is just that. It's all-inclusive. It's included as are tons of daytime activities. Unfortunately, if you're ready to go to bed at 9 o'clock, you're good because there's not much going on after 9 o'clock. And I know some of your fingers on the keyboard right now are saying, but you paid for that. It's included. You paid for that. Yes, you're absolutely 100% right. I paid, and if you go and just, I tell you what, I challenge you. Here's a challenge for you keyboard warriors that are going to attack me on this. Go on to, before or after you send me that nasty email, go on couples.com and look at how much stuff you get while you're staying there: snorkeling, scuba diving, paddle boarding, catamaran cruise, shopping. I mean, I can go on, but I'm not going to do a commercial for couples. But go on there and look at how much stuff you get. Now start doing the math. And I have done the math, and it is way cheaper to go to an all-inclusive resort than it is to take a cruise ship. So there's that. You're welcome to go do the math. And if you think I'm wrong, send me an email. Let's compare numbers. What do they say in the business? Let's run the numbers. Let's run the numbers. But I hope that I've made, shed some light on, should you take a cruise or should you take, the big boat? And it comes down to, all honesty, folks, it comes down to choice. For me, I don't want to schedule. For me, I don't want any kids. It's not that I have anything against kids. I have my own. But we're older now. Our kids are gone and kicked out of the nest. And so, when we go take a vacation, it's just us. It's just a couple. And when you want to go do just a couple thing, then you go to an all-inclusive resort where you're not having children or even teenagers. But if you have a family, then it's all good. You go wherever you have there's mega resorts you can go to that are family resorts that have all kind of things, just like the cruise ship does. So it's all about what you're looking for your vacation. Let me say that louder for the ones in the back. This is all about your vacation, and it's all about what you and your family want to get out of that vacation, because you're spending your hard-earned money that you worked for all year long to go on this 1 week vacation out of the year. So do me a favor, make sure that you're planning your trip and you plan it to what you are truly looking for. And that way you're not disappointed, because the last thing you want to do is be disappointed on your vacation because maybe something wasn't planned out correctly. If you're asking me how much planning I do on a vacation, it would probably make your head hurt. I kid you not. This trip that we're planning for Niagara this fall, I think we've been planning on this for about 3 months. I mean, it's so serious that every 2 weeks we have a FaceTime call with our friends that are going, and we just plan. But it should make for a great trip. We won't have it. It won't feel like it's scheduled, but we do want to make sure that we have time to do everything that we want to do. So once again, I hope that I've covered enough of pros and cons for you that you can make an informed decision between this podcast and the one last week. And if you are planning your vacation for the summer that your vacation you haven't taken yet, by all means, have a blast. Take lots of pictures, create lots of memories. That's what it's all about. It's about getting away. It's about getting that mental picture that you can take with you for the rest of your life, and have memories with you, your family, your significant other, whoever it is that's going with you, or if you're going by yourself. You know what? Either way. But, have a great time and enjoy yourself. Life is short. Enjoy each and every day, because each day is a gift. And speaking of gifts, we are out of time. I don't know how that made sense, but it did in my head. So there's that. But I greatly appreciate you tuning in this week. I appreciate every one of my listeners. It is so cool to see how this podcast just continues to grow. And I truly hope that over the next few weeks, that some of the travel that we're going through to bring back some information to my listeners here behind this big old mic, I hope that y'all enjoy it as much as I did. And I hope you get something out of it, because each and every one of you are so much appreciated. You have no idea. I am truly humbled each and every week to see the numbers. But until next week, I do have to remind you, don't forget to caffeinate and conquer. That is very important. But until I see you right here again next week, have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.